Hello, and welcome to When Groups Get Engaged, the podcast about a guy's perspective to wedding planning from two guys that just tried their own. I'm Steve.
And I'm Chris, and each week we will talk about how we navigated a different part of the wedding planning journey, what we learned in the process, and what we wish we had done differently. Steve, I think this is a you episode, Steve-centric episode incoming for all of our fans. So buckle up. We don't know where this is going. Go off the rails real quick. I'll try to be tasked at keeping you on track, but we'll see how that goes. So this week, I think we're talking about the Greek Orthodox wedding, or what to expect if you get married in a church. All right, so this is kind of free form. Where do you want to start? What can folks expect when they get married in a church?
Yeah, so Chris, I know last week we talked about having a non-religious ceremony where you go to the courthouse or you have some kind of officiant marry you. And this week, I want to talk about the religious ceremony. In my case, the Greek Orthodox one, but I'm assuming they're kind of broadly similar or they'll hit a lot of the same bullet points. So Chris, kind of the first thing I want to talk about is prerequisites. Because you're not just going to pick a church, walk in, and be like, hey, I want to get married tomorrow.
Marry me today.
I'm sure maybe some churches you can.
Maybe in Vegas.
Definitely in Vegas, yeah, 100%. But at least for my church, there were some things that I needed to do first or prove first. So the big one is obviously I have to be a member of the faith. I'm not going to be Catholic and get married in a Greek Orthodox church, in a Greek Orthodox ceremony, or vice versa. So the first thing you have to do is prove that you are a member of that faith. And
you have a cool ring that you showed them, a tattoo.
Yeah. No, not yet. I'm not at that level yet. No, but for our faith, for the Christian faith, it's through baptism. And generally what that means, you have to show your baptismal certificate to the church. And usually a lot of times you can have the same church growing up, or the churches kind of talk to each other. So you have all that. For me, I was baptized in Greece, so I had to get my dad to find my paperwork and pretty much send it over to the church so they can validate it and confirm. But after that, you have to then also be a member of the church. And a lot of times what this means is, you pay your dues. And
does that mean to the church in general or to that specific church itself, like that physical one?
It depends. The way a lot of this works is sometimes you're not necessarily getting married in your church, depending on where your actual wedding is at. So let's say, because I know a lot of people have churches in the suburbs, but their venue is downtown. So now they're getting married in my church downtown. Or vice versa. Maybe they find a venue in the suburbs and their local church is an hour away. So they're going to have to find a church for the wedding. So let's say you are a member of your church, you pay your normal dues, whatever it is, $100 a month, $200 a month, whatever you end up paying it. It's what you feel comfortable paying, which is nice. And those dues will cover you. But let's say instead you want to go to another church, you have to pay their fee to essentially use their services. So it really comes down to, are you getting married in your home church or are you getting married in a related church? And usually the churches have relationships with each other, so you can kind of talk to your priest, the priest will talk to that church's priest, and they can kind of figure it out. But it really depends on your church or another church. But again, only in the same faith. You're not going to get married in a Catholic church in the suburbs because it's close to your vendor.
Interesting. So what else should people expect, coming in? How far in advance, should you be looking? I guess let's start there, right? Because you have to decide, I'm getting married in a church, right? So do you have the venue locked down and then you start contacting the church? Do you look for the church part first? How did you do it?
Yeah, usually, again, you've been going to this church for a while. Once you're kind of engaged, I know a lot of people will talk to their priest. They'll settle on it. So usually with Greeks, especially if it's a big wedding, because you don't have too many venues that can accommodate all those people, a lot of that stuff is already kind of hashed out. In my case, our party wedding was in Greece, and we had just a very small wedding here just to get married in the church with just close family and my parents. So there I didn't necessarily like have to make any concessions for a venue. But in terms of how hard it is to like lock down the date for the church, it really depends on your church's demographic. Do they skew younger? Do they skew older? Usually weddings will be on Saturdays, so you're not taking over for like some kind of service. Churches can have multiple weddings in a day. Three is actually pushing it. I don't think three really happens, but 2 services in a day is not unreasonable. So it's not that hard, but again, maybe it is, depending on if your church is younger and everyone's all of a sudden getting married during the same time. You might have to, get on that quicker. But I know we didn't really have too much of an issue with it, with actually like picking the day. We had quite a bit of flexibility, which was nice.
Yeah, that's great. Doesn't seem like such a stressor then for that decision.
No, not in our case. But what was a stressor is my wife's faith. And the way this works is I'm Orthodox, so that was not an issue. Member of the church, no problem. My wife needs to also be Orthodox, right? And then it's no issues. Church will do the sacrament as needed. Now, when it does become an issue is when my wife is not of the same faith. And there are different degrees on how much of an issue this is. If she is Christian, specifically baptized in the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, then the church will perform, the sacrament of marriage, provided that we agree that our child will be baptized as the faith of the Orthodox faith. And where the gray area is which faith is she baptized in? If they're Catholic, this is where you have the least amount of issues. The Orthodox Church and the Catholic Church, they communicate a lot. They're very close, and there's usually no problems with most priests. Again, it depends on the priest's take on it. The priest will be the final one making that decision. However, if they're Catholic, it's not a big hurdle. My wife was Methodist, and I have heard some priests kind of have issues with it, some not. I think our priest had no issues with it. But again, it comes down to your priest. Now, if your partner is not baptized in the faith, then they have to be baptized. Pretty much, you're not having a marriage if you two are both are not baptized. So that is even more of an issue, because then I don't know what you need to do to be baptized when you're older. We got to talk to Eric, because we had a friend that had to do this. But there's additional things you have to do. I'm assuming it's some amount of classes. You're going to have
That's
to get
the other
dunked.
part of it, right? There's some commitment in terms of learning and committing to time and effort and going to classes and like putting the hours in.
Yeah, exactly. But okay, so after you guys do that, after you're both baptized, you both agree that you want to, you're going to be baptizing your kid in the Orthodox faith. For us, we also then need a kumbaro. Now, the kumbaro is very important. Kumbaro or kumbara, we need just one, right? We don't need, I know Catholics have 2 usually. We're okay with just one. Oh, you can have multiples. You can also have 2 if you want, but you need minimum 1. And this person needs to also be of the faith, obviously. This person is very important because they are also taking on the duties of your first child's godparent, which is very important. This person is also pretty much doing all the work during the actual physical marriage. If you've ever been to a Greek Orthodox wedding, the actual bride and groom don't do anything, right? They sit like shoulder to shoulder and they just like look up at the altar. The people who do the most are the priest, obviously, and then the kumbaro, secondly. They exchange rings, they exchange crowns, they, are there for every step of the way. So this person is very important. And the church is going to want to know who your kumbaro or kumbara is. And obviously, if they're in the church, it's super easy. But, they have to do the same. They have to prove that they're in good standing, that they be a member of the church. They have to, obviously be baptized in that faith. But this person, very important. And I know for us, when you select someone, it's a great honor because, again, if something were to happen to you, they're taking care of your kids. And this is like a very, very important position.
Wow, that's very interesting. So what else, maybe pre-wedding, right? Is there any other things that people should be aware of before we maybe get into a little bit of the day of?
Yeah, so Once you guys are good, all the preliminary paperwork is in, the church has no issues, they have the day open, you've kind of done all that talk. You have to have a precana, I don't know how you pronounce it. I don't know precana. Okay, I don't know if that's what we call it. I know that's what the Catholics call it, but it's the same idea. You have to kind of have a relationship class of some kind. And this could be, a whole day thing. This could be spread out across multiple weeks. Usually your church will have something set up, and they'll usually partner with neighbor churches to kind of, because I know the one we did, it was 2 or 3 churches together on a Saturday morning, afternoon. And if you haven't done this, if you're not getting married in a church, right, if you're not doing anything religious, I still think this is very good to have. Yes, it has the backdrop of religion and God, because obviously you're in a church. But the primary focus of it is conflict resolution between you two, which is, I think we got a lot out of it personally. The biggest thing is they kept stressing, whatever your issues are, you guys are together in solving them. Don't take it out on each other. You're supposed to be working together to solve that, which I thought was very helpful. And, I think more couples should consider just taking one of these classes. I know for us, it was an afternoon thing, 4 hours, 3 hours. I'm not saying how long it was, but it was great.
Yeah, equips you with tools to for after the wedding, right?
Yeah. Well,
and also leading up to there, because there's a lot of stress.
There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of conflict. There's a lot of potential landmines in wedding planning. So this is nice to have. So you do that, and then you also then have to meet with the priest. And Chris, we've talked about this. I brought it up a couple times. The priest and the church's main concern is that when you do have kids, that they will be baptized in the faith. And this is kind of how the church grows. This is kind of how they bring people in. And yeah, you're just going to, reaffirm your commitment to each other, reaffirm your commitment to God, and then reaffirm your plans for your kids in the future. Because, there's no one more interested in your future, the health of your kids, prosperity and stuff outside of your parents and family than the church. They want you to grow, they want you to prosper, and they want you to kind of, bring all that goodness in the church itself. So this is something that they're definitely interested in, and they're going to ask you questions on, just to make sure, you're all on the same page.
How many meetings did you have with the priest prior to the to the wedding? So was this a check-in every month? Is it every 2 weeks? Is it we just talked to them twice, that sort of thing?
I believe it was 2 times for us. But again, the priest is always going to be there for you. Right? So if something comes up, you need to talk to them, they'll make time. But I know for us it was just a couple times.
Right.
So at this point, you're good to go. You've set your date, you've passed all of your checks, you did all the admin work, and you're good to go. The only other thing is, we didn't talk about it, but you can't get married whenever you want. Usually you can only get married on specific times of the year. If there are any church holidays, you can't do it. Any fast days, you can't do it. Anytime during Easter, usually it's after Easter you get married. And there are, various times where the church will not perform that service. So talk to your church, which also kind of is nice because it limits your options, which is good. But it also limits your options, which is bad. So talk to your church. They'll give you a calendar every year of what those days are.
And just kind of going back to something we discussed. So when were you starting these conversations? Was it 6 months out from the wedding, your desired kind of wedding date? Was it 9 months? Was it a full year in advance? Just to kind of give people a good benchmark.
Yeah, so we started wedding planning in not fully running, but started talking about it in, I want to say August, September of the year before we actually got married.
And then you got married around July.
We got married around July, yes. So our church wedding was in June. And I reached out to the church, I want to say around November. So talking 7-ish months, give or take. It wasn't And again, we were lucky we didn't have to, find a venue, do any other big planning. So we kind of didn't have too much we had to coordinate with. But yeah, at least 7 months, because all these classes, they don't offer them consistently. Like I know for the pre-Cana class, there were a couple time frames that they do it with, like I said, all the other churches kind of leading into it. So, if they don't have time, you might have to kind of move your schedule around, see what they can do. You have to go to another church, another part of the state, that does do it. So that's I'd say that's the biggest thing to be aware of is all these prerequisites. Give yourself enough time to do it.
Yeah, I think especially also if you're going to have your wedding or your desired venue for the church is like if it's in a major city, like desirable location, you probably need to start that process maybe just a little bit earlier, just because the demand's got to be so much higher.
Yeah, and again, if you are adding a church wedding, just know it is something else you are going to have to plan and make sure that all the times work out. We didn't have a big sort of reception afterwards. But if we did, we have to figure out transportation. How long is it going to have guests go from the church to wherever the venue is? And that also limits it. So this does take quite a bit of more admin if it is important to you. For us, yes, it was important, but we had 15 people we had to, figure out something for. So that was pretty easy. We had quite a bit of leeway. But if you don't leave this for the last minute. Give yourself a good amount of time just to make sure everything is set up and you're on the same page with everything.
Great. Did you want to talk about it all the day of or anything? Did you get nervous at all? Anything that you can recommend beforehand? Maybe just a quick, tip or anything like that?
Yeah, I was late to my wedding.
Why am I not surprised?
I was 45 minutes late. And so in Chicago, we have a big Puerto Rican population. And whenever it's any of the Puerto Rican celebrations, a lot of times what will happen is the highways will be closed and traffic will be backed up. And me personally, I live in Ukrainian Village, West Town, where a lot of the big Puerto Rican population is. So we're talking tons of traffic, highways blocked. My wedding day was also on my mom's birthday, and she, for some reason, wanted to celebrate before the wedding. I'm like, Mom, this is okay, whatever. And I thought I had enough time. Nope. Traffic was abysmal. Highways were blocked off. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not going to be at my wedding. I kept texting Gina every 5 minutes. I'm like, I'm sorry, this sucks, the worst, traffic. Oh, the priest is like, God. What is going on? I'm like, I'm so sorry. And to be fair to the priest, he rushed it a little bit because I was so late because he had another appointment to make. So what I will say is don't show up late. Honestly, it's
so on brand for you. It's crazy.
It was so annoying. I was so annoyed. I'm like, this is so stupid. Like, why am I... So yeah, there's that. Make sure you're on time. Make sure you're early, actually, more than just on time. And because, if you're not on time, people are going to talk. Did he get scared? Did he run away? Where is he? What's going on?
Yeah, good thing you were texting Gina. Otherwise, there would have been hell to pay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so she knew. But after that, in terms of, so the actual Orthodox wedding, I think I'm biased. I think it's a beautiful ceremony, right? It's steeped with symbolism. It has a lot of, great parables. Is about bringing the couple together as one, as king and queen in their, home in the kingdom of God. I think it's a beautiful ceremony. Being the people getting married as the guy and the girl, really, you don't do anything. You literally just stand there. Your kumbaro does all the work. All you have to do is just follow when the priest tells you to move and takes your hand and walks you around the table. But
if I remember correctly, you're not actually facing your guests either, so that probably also helps with the nerves.
Yeah, it's great. You don't have to look at anyone. You literally just look straight, which is fantastic. Just what I will say is when you are up there, just be cognizant of how you're standing and don't lock your knees. Right? Give them because you're gonna be standing the whole time. So just give them a little bit of bend, so you're not, you're not
you don't want to pass
flopping
out.
over, passing out. Yeah. So just something to be aware of.
Great. I think that's a lot of great and helpful information for our viewers. Anything else you want to touch on before we wrap up?
No, Chris, I think, again, you're going to have to talk to your priest.
They'll guide you through it.
If your wife is not of the faith, they will let you know what needs to happen, if anything. Just because my priest and my church is okay with my wife being, Methodist doesn't mean yours will be. If your priest is like very conservative, old school, maybe just Catholics and that's it. Right? So talk to them. Another thing is with the Greek Orthodox Church is there's no music. So if, some song is important to you, they allow organs. It's not traditional, but like that's about it. Some churches might be different. Again, talk to your priest. Essentially, the priest is who will have the final say on everything. Right? So talk to them, let them know what you want. They'll let you know if that's doable, if that's kosher or not. But yeah, just have that conversation, and I wouldn't put it off. Have it early.
Yeah, no, exactly. Because it might affect your decision of, do you go with that specific church, right?
Yeah. But yeah, no, Chris, I think that's should be a good amount of information if you are getting married in a church. Good for you. Just take it seriously. Don't be late.
Don't be late.
Do not be late. Oh, man.
Well, I think that's great information for all of our viewers. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you next episode.
Perfect. Thanks, Chris. Talk to you soon.
Yeah.